In this video, I'm going to show you exercises that I do and strategies I employ to keep my hands and wrists and forearms happy. If you get wrist pain or hand pain, or you get aching in your forearms because you're using your phone a lot or because you're typing a lot, I'm going to share some strategies that are going to help you make your hands, your wrists, and your forearms feel better. So stay tuned to the end so you understand how to keep your hands happy. So if you're ready, let's get ready to think right, move right, and feel right. I personally started having problems with my hands and wrists in college. I had injured my shoulder and my doctors kept telling me to just rest and rest and rest and rest, and that meant sitting around on my butt either reading books or typing on my computer and surfing the internet and sending messages to my friends. Honestly, I didn't really have that many friends, so I spent a lot of time just on the internet. It took me many years to figure out how to get these things to feel better. So when I'm typing or when I'm using the phone for long periods of time, I can still get problems with my hands and wrists. But now that I'm in my 40s, I have a solution. I know what to do. I know when to do it. I know that if I feel uncomfortable, I need to not listen to my brain, which is saying, oh, just rest some more because it hurts so bad. And I actually need to do the other thing, which is make these muscles work. So blood starts going through my arms, into my wrists and fingers, and everything starts to feel so much better. Before we jump right into the exercises, I want to ask you to describe your problems with your wrists and hands. Do you get wrist pain from your phone or is it from your computer? Drop me a comment down below and let me know if there's anything you found that's been really helpful for you. So here's what you're going to need to do the exercises in this video. You're going to need some dumbbells, which you can get anywhere. Go to a sporting goods store, go to Amazon, go wherever you want and get some dumbbells, around 5, maybe 10 pounds, depending on how strong you are, maybe less if you feel like this is still too hard at 5 pounds. I highly recommend you get some adjustable dumbbells. Get some that go from like 2 pounds all the way up to 25 pounds or more if you can. That saves you a lot of space and a lot of trouble. It'll simplify your life. The second thing you need is some kind of a stick. So it could be a broomstick, it could be a pipe, it could be any kind of stick. It doesn't have to be anything special. It could be a hockey stick that you got at a garage sale or that you've had sitting in the garage even though you haven't played hockey in like 4 years? I think it's actually 5 or 6 years. If you don't have dumbbells around the house right now, that's fine. Just use whatever you have, something with a little bit of heft. It could be cans of soup. It could be bottles of water, like 2-liter bottles of soda. You and I both know who's drinking those 2-liter bottles of soda, and we both know who shouldn't be drinking those 2-liter bottles of soda. Hey, I want to say a big thanks to Ewan or Ewan, Annette, Sabina, and Tanya Morgenstern. You have my favorite last name like ever. I really like the last name Morgenstern. I don't know. Thanks for supporting my channel, and if you want to support this channel too, hit the thanks button or the join button or use the PayPal or Patreon links you'll find in the description box. Let's get back to your wrists. The exercises themselves are very simple. You're going to just start with your palms up, and then you're going to be curling up towards the ceiling. You can have your elbows higher or lower. It's going to change the angle a little bit, but no matter what, you want to feel the muscles of your forearm working. If you don't feel these muscles working, you're not doing it right. Go through as full a range of motion as you possibly can and enjoy it. Keep going slow and controlled. Hold that top position and then slowly come down. Once you feel a good solid burn, once you feel like those muscles are getting fatigued, you are good. You can stop, and then you're going to turn so that your palms are facing down. Then you're going to be curling the weights up towards the ceiling. When you do it in this direction, you may find you need to lower the amount of weight that you're using because the muscles on the backs of your forearms are really weak. Go through as full a range of motion as you possibly can and enjoy the burn. As it gets really tiring and as you feel that fatigue in those muscles, then you can stop and relax. Or instead of using soda bottles, you can use a backpack, throw some weight inside the backpack, sit down and if you find it difficult to feel the right muscles doing either of these positions, make sure to go slower and make sure to hold the top position so that you have time to feel the fatigue and feel the burn generate inside those muscles. One great way to tell that you're actually doing this exercise in a way that's helping you is by looking at your forearms, looking at the veins, the blood vessels in your forearms. If you're doing these exercises fairly often, you'll actually start to notice that veins might become more visible. Especially on men, they may become very visible, which for me was actually a really good sign that I was doing the right thing. When my hands, wrists, and forearms feel the worst, you'll actually see that the blood vessels in my forearms are kind of missing. They'll be like depressed, like sunken into the skin. And after I do some of these dumbbell exercises, you'll actually see that the veins are popping out, and you'll even see the size of the forearm muscles is bigger. There's blood flowing through them and they'll just pop out. For women, it doesn't tend to get quite that dramatic, and I know a lot of women don't want it to be that dramatic, so it's cool. Just notice that there's more blood flowing through, and you may notice that the muscles of your forearms start to pop a little bit more. You'll notice that, hey, you can maybe see that you actually have muscles in your forearms. And one really cool thing that's going to show up in the next exercises that I show you is it can make a huge difference to certain parts of your forearm muscles. So for me, this muscle here often just shuts off when I use the phone or computer a lot. And you can see right now, I don't really have much muscle bulge here. It's just a flat line here. After I do the exercise that I'm going to show you next, you'll actually see that this muscle starts to pop out as blood flows into it as I really use it. And that makes my wrist and forearms feel awesome. It just feels more stable. It gets rid of clicking that happens in this wrist sometimes. And it can be a huge help if you're somebody who gets hand and wrist pain from using your computer or your phone. So the first thing we're going to do is just take a stick and hold it towards the end of that stick. You're going to have the long end pointing away from you, and you're just going to be lowering and lifting that stick. Keep your elbows straight. You don't want to be moving using the elbow. You want your wrist muscles to be controlling the wrist joint while you're doing this exercise. Slow and controlled, hold that top position for a few seconds at least, and really feel the muscles contracting and working at that top position, and slowly as you go down. Keep going till you get fatigue. If you feel it burning, then you're good. You're tired, take a rest. Then you can go ahead and switch so that you're holding the stick with the long end pointing behind you. You're going to be lifting and lowering the stick, and this is where it's going to get really good for that spot that I showed you on the forearm. This area here is going to be working a ton to lift that stick up. Hold the top position, slowly lower, feel the burn, and when you get really fatigued, go ahead and relax. With both of these exercises, you can adjust the difficulty by adjusting how much stick is in front of you. The closer you hold the stick to the center point, the easier it is. The further you are from the center point and the closer you get to the end of the stick, the harder it's going to be because the lever arm is longer. Another thing I strongly recommend is playing around with angles. So having the stick pointing in different angles and different positions can be really helpful in uncovering weak spots in your forearms and wrists. You can try it with a little elbow bend, you can try it with a super straight elbow but with the stick way behind you or the stick way in front of you. Just play around, find a position that is tough and build strength in those tough positions. Okay, so real quick, I want to show you that effect that I can get on my forearms. I got my little old school grenade style wrist training thing that I pieced together with pipes and stuff. I'm going to do a bunch of reps with this thing so I can really pump up that forearm so you can see it here on video. So here I go. Hopefully you can see there's just a little more mass in this area of my forearm. It just feels bigger, a little more active. You can see this vein's popping up. There's more chunkiness here. There's more meat here. I don't know if you can see that, but I can feel it and it feels really good. This little old school German hand grenade style training device is just something I thought of one day, and I went to the hardware store and got a bunch of pipes. If you want to learn how to build this yourself for some reason, you can look in the description box. I'll link to the video where I talked about this thing. But if you don't want to spend 30 bucks or whatever it costs now with inflation and everything, then just use tape and tape something to the end of a stick that you have lying around to make it heavier, and you're good to go. Remember, when you have aches and pains like this, that we're always trying to ATM, always think muscles, and we don't want to get caught in rips or rest ice injection pills and surgery. The key is to sail your way out of pain, and that means you get strength at every length. So don't be afraid to explore different angles and positions. Strength at every length means you get to learn where your weaknesses are and then build on those weaknesses so you can become more resilient and strong overall. And finally, let's talk about how often to do these exercises and how many times a day or a week or whatever. So first of all, everybody is going to be different, and if you're using the computer a lot, if you have hands and wrists that tend to get really weak and atrophied, then you may need to do these quite often. You may find that doing these every single day is a great thing for you. You may find that doing this twice a day, morning and night, is really helpful. There are some weeks where my hands and wrists feel awesome because I did one solid training session on my hands and wrists, and then for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I just sort of forget about my hands and wrists until they get achy again, and then I need to do some more exercises. When you're first starting, I would suggest you start off at a maximum of once every other day, so you at least have a little bit of time in between to feel the consequences of doing these exercises. Do not do these exercises 4 times in your first day, because the next day you're probably going to feel like crap. It would just be a bad idea. Remember that slow is safe and fast is foolish. In terms of sets and repetitions, I would say just do each exercise to fatigue in the order that I've shown you. And once you've taken a little rest and feel ready, go through it one more time. So you've got 2 full rounds of all those exercises. If after a week of this, you feel like, yeah, I'm good every other day, I understand how all this works, my hands and wrists are feeling good, then use it as necessary. If you feel like you can do more and it feels good, go ahead and do more. Do 3 rounds and maybe do it every other day, or do 2 rounds once a day. Just find the rhythm that works for you, experiment a little bit, see how it feels. In a worst case scenario, you just overdo it and you get super sore, in which case you take a few days off and do some massage for your forearms and you should be good to go. And I also want to mention, if you're struggling with hand, wrist, and forearm pain, it's a great idea to make sure your shoulder flexibility and strength are spot on. If you have poor shoulder control and poor shoulder range of motion, it can lead to symptoms into your hands and wrists. The exercises I've shown you today are really helpful for dealing with the local issues, but a lot of times I find working with the shoulders has been amazing. More than amazing, it's also sometimes absolutely 100% necessary to getting rid of the aches and pains. When I've done a lot of things that get my shoulder muscles in balance, my hands will literally go numb. No amount of hand and wrist stretching alone fixes that until I can get my shoulders to sit in the right spot, until I can get muscle balance around my shoulders, shoulder blades, and spine in tip-top shape. So if you are having trouble with your hands, wrists, and forearms, then be sure to check out the Shoulder Fix program. I'm going to drop a link down below. In the Shoulder Fix program, there's actually a special sub-program that deals with hand and wrist issues and shows you specific routines, exercises, workouts, and schedules that'll help you with your shoulders and your hands and wrists so you can get everything sorted out. So there you have it. If you'd like to learn how to Asian squat or touch your toes, check out these videos here. To support this channel, use the join or thanks button down below, or the Patreon and PayPal links you'll find in the description box. Like, share, and subscribe, and as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't.